Hello everybody. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about worry. There's a lot of it out there, isn't there? And there's plenty to worry about. So, now what is worry? Worry is a response or a reaction to a particular situation or a circumstance. We all do it. Some people worry more, some people worry less to the same situation, but that's what we do. Now, thinking about the current situation, we may think that justifies worry a fair bit. You know, there's lots going on. It could be job security, it could be just health, concerns about your health or your children, all sorts of things. There's plenty to be worrying about. Now, we're going to spend just 10 minutes, if we can, looking at what the Bible, the whole of it, has to say about worry in just 10 minutes. Can we do that? I think we can try. And with the goal to help us worry less. Okay, that's what we want to do, and we're going to see why we want to do that. So, like I say, we like to look at the whole Bible. So here we go. Let's start in the Old Testament. Now, the Old Testament, as you know, is very thick and the biggest part of the Bible. Loads of stuff going on there, plenty of stuff to worry about, you'd think. But here's the shock. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, you will find the grand total. You can do a search using a concordance, don't believe me, of just one account of worry. The Old Testament writers, that's, you know, David and who else wrote the Old Testament? Lots of people, there's Moses and Samuel, and they didn't want to waste their parchment writing about worry, so it's seen one account they wrote about it. Do you know what that is? It's really relevant. You sure? You're going to love this. 1 Samuel. Samuel tells the future king Saul not to worry because his father's donkeys have been found. Okay? So there you are. I'm sure you can meditate on that the rest of the day. So that's it. Whole of the Old Testament. Worry. Okay, we're going to go back here though, believe it or not. But we're going to look at the New Testament now. Now we all know Jesus has something to say about worry in the Sermon on the Mount, and I find it in Matthew's Gospel, and I want to point us to a couple of verses in Matthew 6. Before we do that, you know what it does. Jesus says, don't worry, and then he tells us why we shouldn't. Let's see what he says. Matthew 6:25. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you'll eat or drink, or about your body, what you'll wear. Is life not more than food, and the body more than clothes? And then later in that chapter, a few verses later, I love this. Can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to their life? That is a good point right there, isn't it? He made a good point there. And he's not the only one who makes that point. Today, doctors, medical experts, psychologists, they'll tell you how bad worry is for us. You know, we kind of know it's good for bad for us physically, bad for us emotionally, bad for psychologically, and yeah, we get it. We know. We still do it. We try not to, but we know. We agree. We're saying, "Amen." Yes, great word there, Jesus. I love it. I think I shouldn't worry. Don't want to, especially now. Okay, so how? And Jesus did tell us not to do it, and it's important to remember that worry, it wasn't one of the 10 Commandments. Jesus did not say, do not worry. God did not say, do not worry. As he did say, do not murder, you know, do not commit adultery, do not thief, do not, you know, those things. But we've just read that Jesus said, don't do it. Jesus being God telling us not to do something, and we go and do it. You know, does that classify for sin? I'll think about that one. I think it might. Now, Jesus clearly tells us not to do it, and we would agree. But how, in today's circumstances, with everything on the news about viruses and things around us and fear that we've talked about previously, how should we not worry? Now, I believe we might be able to find a key by returning back to the Old Testament, not the donkeys. Okay? The instant is why did all those writers, godly people in the Old Testament, as we said, Moses, Samuel, King David, prophets. Why did they not write about worry when there was all the worrying stuff, we would say, going on around them? Now, before we look at an answer to that, there's one other subject that's hardly mentioned in the Old Testament, but is mentioned loads in the New Testament. Jesus talked about it a lot. They find the letters and epistles wrote a lot about it. It's not love, okay? Because that's mentioned in the Old Testament too a little bit. You know what it is? Satan. Shock, horror. Yep, I found this out a few years ago. That is true. Satan is hardly mentioned in the Old Testament. We know right at the beginning he gets a kick in, doesn't he? Right at the beginning there, we know that one. Not much else. You'll find him a little bit in the book of Job, and you'll find a few smatterings in a few of the prophets, not much. But that's it, tiddly squat, 0. So Satan and worry, you want to find out about them. Well, why do you want to find out Satan? I don't know, but you won't find them in the Old Testament very much. Why is that? Why do they not write about it? Well, surely it was relevant to them with all their troubles. Well, let's think about that for a minute. Let's see if that helps us. Now, like I say, Jesus had plenty to say about it. And he did talk about Satan, obviously, Jesus, but he talks about Satan in a way of, as the epistles did, that he's defeated him and we have authority over him. So we shouldn't be concerned about him, just keep God's kingdom advancing. Good stuff. Now, but in the Old Testament, they didn't have that, but they still didn't talk about him. Why was that? We didn't quite worry. Why was that? Now, I think the main reason that Satan and the worry that goes along with it wasn't their problem. It wasn't their problem. See, the way the Old Testament believer in Yahweh looked at things, a Jew, God had made a covenant with them, their nation, and he'd made some great promises to them, and he was much, much bigger, hugely bigger than Satan. And in fact, so big that I'm not even going to be concerned about him. I'm not going to worry about him. He's the other nation's problems. He's those Gentiles. They can deal with those devils. They can deal with all that. He can't touch us. And we see that when Joshua is leading the Israelites into the promised land, God was key, and he spoke to Moses before. When you go into the land, do not take on their ways. Do not take on the actions of those who live in the land, because he knew they didn't have that protection and they were influenced and affected by Satan. And we know they did some hideous things, and we can't go there. It's a big subject, but we see it clearly, and we know that the Israelites, unfortunately, in some cases did do that, and it only led to misery. But that's a big thing. We're going to stick with worry, remember. But one picture from the Old Testament, I think, will sum this up and help us see the way that an Old Testament believer would have dealt if he even thought about Satan and worry. David, shepherd boy, facing a giant, what does he do? What does he say? He comes against this uncircumcised Philistine and puts him down because he was coming against his God, and he knew that Yahweh was far greater than anything that was out there that dared to come against the purposes and plans of God. And that is why they don't mention it. They don't seem it's relevant. So, and you know what? When they got into difficult problems, and they did often, appalling messes, and they got conquered and taken away, and they were warned and they didn't listen. And what was their reaction to that? Eventually, they recognised. They didn't blame Satan. They didn't blame circumstance. They recognised it was their actions not holding up their part of the covenant that God had made, the provision that God had made for them. They realised they didn't do it, and they were repentant. And it was a bit late now, but yeah, if you like, they suffered for their actions. They did. Now we have a covenant now, which is far greater than that. This is a covenant made through Christ. This is a covenant made through his death and his resurrection, the forgiveness of sins, all that goes with that. And that's a covenant of grace. We're not under the law. They were under the law. They still had a great covenant. God loved them and God provided for them, but it wasn't the same. For us, we have all that, we haven't broken that, and some, a lot more. So, how much more, perhaps, should we, as New Testament Christians, believers in the risen Christ Jesus, the same God, same Father, why do we worry? Why can't we have the attitude that they did back there? And realise that God is in control. Yes, the circumstances might rage on, the viruses might be there, the difficult situations might be there, but God is on his throne. Okay, so back to today. I'm going to finish with this. I'm not in any way suggesting that there's been some kind of covenant breakdown that's resulted in the current situations. Not at all. Christ's covenant is a covenant of grace and love. But what I do want to encourage us today is not to worry, or worry less if we can. And the way to do that, we can't think of nothing. We have to think of something. You can't say, I'm not going to think, empty my mind. We know the dodginess of that. When we feel the worrying coming to us, a bit like fear we talked about the other day, don't worry, but look at our covenant-keeping God. And remember those teachings of Jesus. Amongst those teachings in Matthew 6 on the Sermon on the Mount, which, if you can find time today, probably a lot of you have got more time than you'd normally have. How about reading Matthew 6, especially those middle bits about worry? And you'll find in there, amongst his teachings, Jesus is very, very clear in ensuring that we know the great value that God places on us. And it's out of that acknowledgement that he's able to say, don't you worry. You know, look at the birds. God cares about them. How much more does he care about you? So, hope this helps. Worry is a reaction to a circumstance. We can react with worry, and we may, don't convict yourself too much if you do. I know I can be tempted to do that, and I'll be honest, I do in little ways sometimes. But I do know that I don't want that to control me, and I know it's not going to add a day to my life. I know it's not going to change the situation, but I know it will change the situation if I let the covenant-keeping God have his way in my life and keep my eyes focused on him. Remember the psalm, I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from him, maker of heaven, maker of all the earth. So try not to worry. Bless you guys. I'm going to speak again soon.